It's the 10 to 1 podcast with your host, Brad Oman, featuring Ben Conowitz and Nate Laux. And here's the podcast.
How'd I do? Why is it weird? Why are you laughing so much? Guys, it's the podcast.
Because you always make fun of Brad so much every time he does it. And you were terrible.
Why was it so bad?
It's the 10 to 1.
Oh, you know what? Fuck off.
I'm in your head now.
Oh, you are.
Well, hey, guys.
It's the 10 to 1 podcast.
Yeah, Brad's sick. So it's just Ben and I tonight.
It's a shit show. We're not, by the way, it sounds like we've been drinking. We are stone sober. We're just kind of slapsticking because there's no Brad to rein us in.
No angry Brad being angry at us all the time. It's just happiness here.
So at the end of the episode, Brad is going to chime in. He did pre-record a few things, but he is literally on, well, we're not going to say death's door, but it sounds like it. He
sounds terrible.
He's really under the weather. So,
and he just got back from the Utah. He's a Ute.
And we recorded our other podcast, Go Flix Yourself. He got through that one, and by the end of that, he was like, I gotta go, boys. So the 10 to 1 podcast, it's a Saturday Night Live review podcast. We talk about the latest episode. Nate is usually the host. I don't want to let him host. Go for it, buddy.
Welcome to the 10 to 1 podcast, everyone. Glad to have you. We are on the 48th season. Tonight we're going to talk about the 8th episode. Steve Martin and Martin Short. Steve Martin and Chevy Chase hosted the show together on December 6th, 1986. But that was the last time these two hosted together. So it's been, almost our whole lifetime before these guys hosted.
35 years? Wow.
Yeah. So here we have these two people, comedy legends. I don't think they're inviting Chevy Chase back anytime soon.
Probably for good reason.
Back. And I'm just so excited. So Steve Martin has hosted before many, many times. Many people think he was actually a cast member. He was never a cast member. He's just hosted, 17, 18, 20 times?
They did it in the monologue, right? He has hosted 13 times, I believe it was in the monologue.
He's just hosted a ton. And in some prominent Christmas episodes, he's done sketches that have been on Best Of before. So.
He hosted 4 times from 76 to 80. And then it took him another 20 years, but then he hosted the next 9 shows in the 2000s and beyond. So it was one of those things where back in the day in the 76 or 80s, every year you had multiple people hosting, sometimes twice a year.
Yep.
That's just kind of how it was. And the show has obviously evolved to now just people that are really in the news, noteworthy, big stars, and they do it. You'd be very, very special if you host once a year.
There was a thing on one of the Facebook groups for SNL that I'm a part of. And people are like, SNL must be failing because they're not bringing in big guests anymore. And I think that's just a sign that you're getting really old.
Exactly. They're just not. Why don't they play popular music on the radio anymore? It's okay.
Because Jack Harlow's one of the biggest guys in the world.
I'm sorry that Duran hasn't been on in a while, Grandpa.
So
no, these are the biggest stars in the universe on SNL.
Now,
week by week.
Now, our other podcast, if you listen to Go Flix Yourself, we play some games on there and we like to quiz each other. I do have a quiz for Benny. Martin Short was a cast member in season 10, 1984 through 1985.
The Dick Ebersol years.
Yeah, the last Dick Ebersol year. So he was also a cast member on SCTV. And he hosted on December 6th, 1986, December 7th, 1996, and December 15th, 2012, and now December 10th. All right, so who else was in that cast in 1984 and 1985, the year 10, when he was there? Do you remember? Or let me see if you can guess.
Charles Rocket?
No.
Okay, how about Julia Louis-Dreyfus?
Correct, that is one, yes.
And how about John Lovitz?
No, John Lovitz actually, this whole cast got fired or left.
See,
and John Lovitz started the next year.
Because I thought that maybe there was some crossover, but you're saying that the entirety of the cast was just gonzo.
In the history of SNL, the next year, Lorne came back.
Sure, and why wouldn't you just get rid of everything?
Clean house.
Yeah, no, I got you. I could probably go on.
I could name some.
Bore you to death here to try, but who else was on that cast?
All right, so it was Martin Short, Jim Belushi,
Robert Downey Jr.
Nope.
Damn.
Billy Crystal.
Okay.
Mary Gross, had not heard of Mary Gross. Christopher Guest also was a writer, so the great Christopher Guest. Actually, I'm going to admit, I did not know Christopher Guest did a season on SNL.
It's one of those things where if you would have told me, I would have been like, true or false. I could do 50-50. I didn't remember that.
I didn't know that.
Now, Rob Reiner did a lot of shorts back in the day on SNL. And so is that where they met?
Maybe, probably.
You know? I'm going to say yes.
It's amazing how many people had interactions with SNL for a season or two back then that just became huge
Again,
stars.
like Robert Downey Jr., right?
Yep.
Tangentially related to the show. Maybe the highest paid actor, ever now with his Marvel deals.
Yep.
And then Julia Louis-Dreyfus with Seinfeld. I mean, just rocket ships.
Rich Hall, Gary Kroger, Harry Shearer, Pamela Stevenson. A side note, not a cast member, but a writer of that season, Larry David.
There you go. And did the thing that he did on Seinfeld where Costanza quits his job and then just shows back up like nothing happened. That is a real story that happened to Larry David on Saturday Night Live. He said, fuck it, I quit. And then he regretted it. And he just showed back up the next week. It was like nothing happened.
For you SNL history buffs, that was the 84-85 season when Martin Short, the only year he was a cast member of SNL.
Would have been the Ed Grimley year.
Yep. Yeah. And he brought Ed Grimley over from SCTV.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to this episode. Martin Short, Steve Martin hosted this. Cold open, Blocking It Out for Christmas, written by Colin Jost, Ken Sublett, and Allison Gates. A group played by Kenan Thompson, Cecily Strong, Ego Nwodum, Bowen Yang, and Sarah Sherman shares how they keep their cool during the holiday season. I love this for a cold opening. It was still slightly political, or at least cultural. It touched on some things that I thought were very funny about Elon Musk, these kind of things, but there wasn't silly political impressions.
No, anytime they're going to get away, right? We talk about, listen, people listening to this podcast probably are just sick of us saying it.
Yep.
Stay away from the cold opens that are political, and you're going to do just fine. And
we are political people.
Exactly.
We actually enjoy politics.
But they're not very good at it these days, so stray away, and this is fine. This wasn't an all-timer or anything, but it got the point across, and
there were good harmonies.
And there was enough like aggressive comedy.
Yeah, there were some lines that really made me laugh. Bowen Yang, I think, said, what was it? And Hitler, since when did Hitler come back? Hitler should never come back.
Yeah.
And then
Keenan
said, and why are his news fans black?
Yeah,
like,
so
again, that is a political commentary, that is cultural commentary, but it wasn't in a Fox News opener.
Exactly.
Right?
Judge Janine Pirro did not yell at us.
So I thought it was clever. Again, not probably going to be an all-timer on the Christmas episode season or anything like that, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was creative. Anytime you read a song like that, it was kind of it kind of reminded me of was it Santa's My Boyfriend?
Yeah.
A little bit like that. So
yeah, they do a good job of kind of feeling the pulse of America right now, and that came out like, we're gonna just bottle it all up. Just
Elon Musk, why does he get to own all the things? Yeah, right. Which a question we've all asked, right?
Exactly.
Why does he get to own all?
Why that one? Why that guy?
All right, moving on. Monologue written by Mike DeCenzo, Jake Norblin, and Brian Tucker. Returning hosts Steve Martin and Martin Short reminisce on their previous years hosting and appearing on Saturday Night Live and read the eulogies they wrote for each other. And there was a surprise guest appearance by Selena Gomez.
I called that.
You did. Martin Short is one of the greatest riffers of all time.
All time.
He is just so funny. I could have heard them do this thing that they were doing in the monologue all episode, and that was all the episode was, and I would have been ecstatic.
Yep. They're so talented, and they've been working together for so long.
They're dear friends, you can tell, right?
They jump in on each other as needed, and my God, there's we'll see a little bit later on the episode where things go a little harebrained slightly, and they kind of recover, and not a lot of people can do that. And so this was a good kind of if you've never seen Steve Martin and Martin Short, maybe some people that were tuning in.
And they're touring in 2023.
Yeah, so my parents.
I would love to go see him.
Yeah, would love to go see him, and so would I.
Yep.
The crazy part is, Steve Martin back in the 70s was selling out Madison Square Garden.
Unbelievable.
I mean, he's performed for thousands and thousands of he should have peaked in the 70s, and yet he's had this illustrious career and done everything under the sun.
Never really dipped either, right? I mean, he's just stayed
just a solid guy.
If he dipped at all, it was because he wanted to dip, like he wanted to enjoy his
He went
life.
away in like the late 2000s to do banjo shit.
Yeah, because he wanted to.
It was so I don't know. I have the ultimate respect for him from stand up to movies to sketch comedy to writing. He wrote Shop Girl. And I mean, he plays banjo. The guy is just a multitude of talent.
We've heard from listeners of this show and our other show that one of the things they like is, again, we make fun of each other a lot on this show. We do. We make fun of each other. We make fun of the people that come and guest host our other podcast. But we genuinely love each other, right?
Of course,
we
man.
do. And people can hopefully see that. I think it takes a skill to do that, and they do this so well where they can actually make some really funny jokes at the other's expense.
I mean, the eulogy stuff was freaking brilliant. It was so funny. I rewound it and watched it twice, and I normally don't do that with monologues. I'll just let the show play, but I rewound it and watched it again. It was that good for me. I love the monologue.
Yeah, me too. Moving on, Science Room with Steve Martin and Martin Short. This is a sketch that they've done before, the Science Room sketches. They had done it in January 13th, 2018 with Sam Rockwell. They did it in January 25th, 2020 with Adam Driver.
Where they peaked.
Yeah, and then they did it in October 23rd, 2021 with Jason Sudeikis. I thought that was pretty good.
That's decent.
So two teachers, played by this time Steve Martin and Martin Short, attempt to teach a science lesson with the help of their junior volunteers, Cecily Strong and Mikey Day. This is written by Mikey Day, Streeter Seidel, Rosebud Baker, and Cecily Strong. So again, they've done this before. It's a formula that's familiar to us. It's a lot of, they play off the humor of confusion, but also, again, of adolescence a little bit. What did you think of this?
So the reason Adam Driver was so brilliant in this role is that his frustrated escalation where he physically threw something peaks the sketch, and it can't be topped, in my opinion. Sudeikis did a pretty good job, but that was the perfect version of this sketch was when Adam Driver did it, because he was so frustrated, and it was so funny to see him act the way he did it, losing his mind. Steve Martin and Martin Short didn't quite get to that level of losing their shit completely, but it was still funny. It didn't. When Bailey and I sat down, my girlfriend and I sat down to watch this, and the Science Room, the card comes up, and she goes, "Okay," because we all know how good it can be, and so it sets the bar pretty high.
So, do you need a serious actor like Adam Driver to do this well? Do you think? Whenever Steve Martin and Martin Short are on the screen, I'm waiting to laugh.
Right.
Whereas Adam Driver, I don't have that as much. And Adam Driver is a great host.
Oh no, exactly.
But
it comes from the unexpected, though.
Exactly.
Right? And we all talked about that all the time, where comedy is what's unexpected. And if you're expecting to laugh at Steve Martin, you might not be expecting to laugh at Adam Driver and thinking that the other two in the sketch are going to be the reason for laughing.
And Adam Driver can play a serious, frustrated person better than
I
Martin
did
Short
like the fact that there were two teachers this time, so they got to play off each other a little bit and still have that vibe that Steve Martin and Martin Short have. And there were a couple of pretty funny lines between them.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad sketch.
No,
it
not
wasn't
at all.
The best version of this sketch that we've seen.
Overall, I'm glad they did it, though, because it was still fun to watch.
Yeah. There was another little thing that bothered me is at the end where I think Steve Martin goes to choke somebody. Choke Mikey Day, and he doesn't really choke him.
Yeah,
commit to that.
Yep.
Like you could commit to a better choke.
I know, and it takes you out
it's
of
a
it.
silly thing. I know to be but it took me out of it. I'm like, oh come on, choke him.
Commit to the bit, man.
Yeah. All right, next.
Hey, Brad, what'd you think?
He's dead.
Okay, he died.
Please Don't Destroy, Chelsea, written by Martin Herlihy, John Higgins, and Ben Marshall. Two guys find themselves in a bad situation with their friend reuniting with his ex-girlfriend. Okay, so the Please Don't Destroy guys, we've talked about this before, about escalation in sketches, that we need escalation if you do the humor right at the beginning, and then there's really just, you're playing the same gag or same bit, the rest of it, we'll stop laughing eventually. The Please Don't Destroy guys are masters in escalation.
They really are.
And I actually really love this. I thought it was hilarious. I knew what was coming to a certain extent, right? You know, as soon as the camera pans, there's going to be a new character there.
And the thing is, when they start the sketch, and it's basically, hey, I'm getting back, hey, you remember my girlfriend Chelsea?
Yeah.
And then
which I've had a kind of an experience with that with a friend before.
The other two guys on the couch start talking shit, and of course, because it goes on for more than a sentence, you know what's going to happen, right? They're talking oh yeah, she smelled like a sewage person. Oh yeah, a bag of trash.
Yep.
You knew what was going to, but then to pan and have her be sitting there the entire time, that's the first level of escalation like we talk about. And then of course it just keeps panning and panning and panning, and that made it great.
And it's hard because they start on a steep hill in the beginning and they just keep driving up the hill, and it's hard to do that.
When they have the absurdist stuff like Sarah Sherman's real dad.
Yep.
I mean, I lost it, man. I thought that was so freaking hilarious to do that and to break the fourth wall. Man, these guys are really, really talented.
Have you ever had that moment before where a buddy breaks up with a girlfriend and you're like, dude, I didn't like her anyway. You're better than her. And then 2 days later, they're like, yeah, we're going to get back together. And you're like, I don't know what to say to that now.
And of course, I'm 41 now, and I've learned my lesson.
You are not.
But back in my 20s, that's what it was. Man, fuck her. Like, no, you're gonna go and you're gonna find somebody. She was trashy, by the way, bro. She really was.
You're so much better than her.
And now,
you know, I think she liked another guy anyway.
There could literally be a situation where they could have been together for 10 years, and like she punched my mom, and she threw up on my dog, and she ran over my foot, and she cheated on me with 19 guys. And I'd be like, oh well, it's probably for the best. You know, you guys are probably, hey, let's just focus on you then, No disrespect to her. Because in 2 days when they get back together, I'm going to be the one that was like, I saw
you've done this enough.
I've done it. I've learned,
Forgive me because I don't know the names of all three of them because they're such a trio for me. So I don't know the individual names. But at the end where the one switches over to the couch got me.
Yeah. I was like, you're on that side now? Come on.
Yeah, it was it was really good.
It's a very good, and I have on this podcast.
These guys are going to be great. I mean, they're going to they're going to write movies. They're going to do great things.
They're going to be fine. As the one of the three of us on this show that has like said, oh, that one wasn't as good as, and then Brad just wants to murder me and you want to murder me.
Because I do love the movies.
This was a very high on my list as far as a good sketch that they have done.
All right, The Holiday Train, written by Ken Sublett and Allison Gates. On a train, a group of people, played by Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Cecily Strong, get really excited to see snow for the first time. It also stars Kenan Thompson and James Austin Johnson.
What did you think, Mr. Nate? I want to hear your opinion on this one.
There was a couple things that were funny to me about this. I thought the physical comedy was funny. They were bouncing on a train at different... That made me laugh for some reason. There was the mistake that made me laugh when Steve Martin was so flat that Martin Short laughs and then cleans out his ear, right? I didn't love this sketch. I thought it was okay. I didn't think it was bad.
I didn't get it.
Even the song, we're gonna wipe our butts with the snow. I'm like, okay.
I didn't get it until I got it right at the end, right? Where the bear thing happened and it was a very long payoff.
Yeah, I watched it again and found it funnier the second time because I knew how it ended.
Exactly.
I knew the payoff.
So it was one of those where you do like a slow build to a nice payoff. This was such a slow build that I lost my interest.
You
and I was
needed
like, okay,
to
this
know
is
a little
sketch.
more.
Yeah.
I think in the payoff or in the build. I think there was
no
actually
hints.
For those that have seen it, I assume you're listening to this and you've seen this. At the end, the payoff is these are bears,
right.
And you don't know it.
Which is
they're
just
magical
so
bears, and they're
weird to me. But at the same time, that made me laugh out loud.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, that's what they're doing.
Yep.
But I don't love when the comedy is, oh, that's why it's funny.
Yep.
Instead of it just being funny.
Exactly.
I think Brad probably doesn't share our opinion on that one.
No, I think he loves this one.
Yeah, that's a sketch of Brad loves.
Idiot.
All
right.
What a dummy that's not here to defend himself.
What else you were talking about, Brad? All right, A Visit with Santa, written by Ken Sublett and Allison Gates. Things get heated between Santa, played by Steve Martin, and an elf, played by Martin Short, when kids come to meet Santa.
I will watch this every year. Honestly, this was awesome. Awesome.
I loved Martin Short forgetting he's on his knees. And do you think a lot of this was improv?
Yeah, honestly. So I've talked about SNL in mixed company before. And somebody will bring up, oh, yeah, and I'm sure that was improv. And I remember what they're talking about, like, no, you dumbass. Like that, no, it was not improv. That was written.
SNL is not improv.
Like it was supposed to be improv. Like, they wrote it like it was improv.
Yep.
This wasn't that. They had a couple things tonight where they absolutely didn't write that.
Because they are gifted improvers.
Yeah. And
right?
it was, normally, Lauren Michaels would absolutely not want any of that to happen. And to what level all of it was improv? No, of course not. But they had
a direction where they wanted to go in this sketch, right?
They absolutely, the line about him, you have legs, and then he's like, I've had him for centuries or whatever it was. We've been friends all these years, and we've never noticed.
Steve Martin messing up Sprinkles and Pringles. That was great because I don't think he meant to do that.
So that's one of the things where that one sounded like it was scripted.
No, I don't think it was. I think he messed that up.
See, and this is the debate for me.
Yeah,
is like the Sprinkles Pringles thing.
No, based on Martin Short kind of laughing.
Oh my god, it was so good.
I don't think he meant to do that.
Yeah,
I think
it was. It was so played off so well.
It's some of the, so the premise for those that haven't seen it, hopefully you have. This is one sketch of this episode you're definitely going to want to see. Martin Short is the elf, Steve Martin's the Santa, and then they're bringing in other cast members to be little kids. And they're asking for different things, and Martin Short is just irritated by them.
He's really over it.
There's this scene though where
Santa basically says, "And you're with me, Sprinkles the elf," and he says, "Yes, it's me, Pringles the elf." And then he goes, "Did you say Pringles?" And he goes, "Yeah, no, I got confused. Okay, my name's Sprinkles, but I said Pringles. I love Pringles." And it was so quick, and Steve Martin yes-anded it so well that I just felt like that could have been scripted.
And then somebody asked for Taylor Swift tickets. Say that again. I dare you. And then like Taylor Swift said, then get a job.
Get a job. Martin Short destroyed this sketch.
Oh, he just
the only thing that I didn't
Steve Martin really didn't have a ton of comedy in that sketch.
No, Steve Martin played fine. He was the straight man. But then at the end, he even got aggressive, and I didn't love that turn.
Yeah.
Because I really wish that he just would have always been the straight man to Martin Short's crazy.
Because he did it really well.
Oh my God, it was so funny. I'm not joking. I was laughing hard. Martin Short's, they're both just so incredible.
All right, pre-taped A Christmas Carol written by Mikey Day and Colin Jost. Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol takes an unexpected turn. Now, as the resident Dickens scholar of this podcast, because I just saw A Christmas Carol performed 6 times in 2 weekends because my son was Tiny Tim
resident scholar.
And our local production of A Christmas Carol, this actually got me laughing a ton because the lines that they were using, the first minute of this sketch is legitimate, or maybe 30 to 45 seconds of it are legitimate Charles Dickens lines from A Christmas Carol. And he's playing them somewhat straight, and the Martin Short as straight as he can be in the line. So I'm like, oh, wow, I recognize these lines because I've seen this now 6 times.
What day is this?
Yeah, this actually had extra humor for me because there's this scene in our local production where the Scrooge character has to throw down a coin to a boy that's supposed to catch it. And in our local production, the boy never caught it.
I was going to say, have they ever caught
Never.
Did you expect him to?
I mean, it was so funny because I was talking to the Scrooge guy, the guy that in our local production played Scrooge, and he's like, I have to telegraph it. I literally say, and there's a coin, and he shows him the coin, and he very slowly, I'm going to throw it down to you. It's a big coin. It is a big coin, and he still doesn't catch it.
How old is the kid?
Probably 10.
If the kid's 15, I'm going, come on.
No, he's probably 10.
Yeah, I don't
should still catch it, but
no, I would never expect a 10-year-old to do it, honestly.
But anyway, so that whole thing of them not throwing them down is already a humorous thing for me because we can't do it locally. I could have swore Sarah Sherman was going to write this sketch.
Are you that stage dad that comes up and brings a catcher's mitt next time, here, Tyler, use the damn mitt. If you can't catch it, take it again.
Yeah. I talked to the director. I demand that somebody recast that role if my son's going to be in this production.
There were no baseball players that tried out?
I would be the kid that probably didn't catch it because I'd be so nervous with hundreds of people watching.
Exactly. It's the nerves. It has nothing to do with catching it.
All of this is true. All of this is a part of Charles Dickens.
So
all of it's a part of Christmas Carol. And then for me, I thought it was Sarah Sherman that wrote this because it just gets absurd.
It gets crazy.
And it's so funny.
Quick.
So funny. I just love
If you haven't seen this for some
every
reason,
bit of this.
It's violent as hell. It's escalation ad nauseum. I mean, it's
pre-taped, so there's some good effects in it as well. The whole idea is, Scrooge is throwing down coins to go get the big turkey to this kid, the prize turkey, and the coin hits him in the eye and blinds him. He throws another one, it blinds him again.
It's basically raining shrapnel instead of coins.
Nobody can catch these coins.
My
but they're
favorite one,
violent.
my favorite scene is when he flips it down. He's like, I'm gonna just throw it on the ground in front of you, and it bangs around off some things and hits the crutch of Tiny Tim, to which then he falls down the sewer. Yeah, it's just hilarious.
And the townspeople they're going, or he's a madman.
He's a madman.
It's such a creative turn on A Christmas Carol,
and they did kind of like a Normandy beach scene.
Yes.
With the effects where it was all just raining down from above. Oh my God.
He shuts the window at the end and glass comes out. And again, you hear the screams of the people down there. Now, what did you think about this? At the end, sometimes SNL doesn't know how to end sketches.
No, okay. So
they end it with apple pie.
I was actually okay with that. So the other time that I liked one of my favorite sketches, and I mean this of all time, is the worst inventor of the world, most evil invention with the Rock, and they end it with White Castle, those little tiny sandwiches or whatever. And I was okay with that one as well because they did reference it in the sketch a little bit in that one.
Yeah.
This one, of course, there was no reference to Apple, but that was a decently clever way of actually stamping something.
Yeah, pay through your phones because
they didn't need it. Honestly, it could have just faded to black. It would have been fine, but it didn't take anything away to add that. I thought
that was my only criticism is that I didn't think they needed it.
And that's the thing. Like, did they think that it wasn't enough just to cut to black? Like, it's a funny enough premise to just let it end.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd love to sit around on that.
Maybe we make it Apple Pay.
Maybe Apple had a Charles Dickens commercial that I don't know about.
Again,
I don't know.
I'm normally the one that learns about this on our show, where you're like, oh, by the way, have you seen the Peppa Pig thing they're talking about? Like, no, what the hell are you talking about?
So maybe there is. And
wait, there's coins in the Dickens? Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Weekend update. We don't have Brad here. I'm so sad. A weekend update. Anchors Colin Jost and Michael Che tackle the week's biggest news.
You can ask me.
Kristen Sinema leaving the Democratic Party and a woman leaving 3 buckets of human waste at a police station. Now, Ben, this is a topic that's super relevant to you and where you're at in your life. What do you think of that story of a woman leaving those buckets of human waste at a police station? Did that resonate with you on a deeper level?
So you asked me this as frequent listeners know. This is the question I'm asked every weekend update. If I like the 3 buckets of shit,
I assume that's why you bought a truck. Do we think Brad would have been okay?
I think Brad was probably okay with this one because there was a little level of interaction between the two of them. It wasn't probably the most he's ever seen. Last weekend, he loved them. But I do think there was a little back and forth. I also loved, we'll get a little ahead of ourselves, I really love the inside baseball of the Weekend Update character doing Scarlett Johansson's voice.
Yes.
That was very pointed, obviously. We'll talk about that. But the level of interactivity with Jost and the audience this time was huge. Yeah. He was talking back to them a lot. And then Che was laughing at that. And so I'm pretty sure Brad would love that.
Yeah, I thought it was a great weekend. I mean, they've been consistently great this whole season. And again, I don't know if this is the case, but Che and Jost aren't the head writers anymore. They are writing more sketches.
I could have done probably without the Brittany Griner. Those are lazy trade jokes. I didn't really love those as much.
No. I did text Brad while we're recording this right now. He is, again, for our listeners that are just catching up, he is at home dying of whatever illness he has.
Yeah, he's got the plague.
Yeah, but I asked him.
And not COVID, the actual plague.
Yeah, the bubonic.
Yes.
The bubonic kind.
The bubonic.
I said, Brad, do you like Weekend Update? He said, yes, I did, though I didn't like the guest characters I didn't think the guest characters were all that great. We'll get to those. So he did like Weekend Update. Again, they've been consistent. What hasn't always been consistent is the bits they do during Weekend Update. So let's talk about some of those. First, let's talk about Marianne Louise Fisher on holiday shopping, written by Ego Nwodum, Gary Richardson, and new writer Asha Ward, who's their second episode here. Marianne Louise Fisher stops by Weekend Update to share her holiday shopping tips. I love Ego Nwodum. I didn't love this.
There's such a premium on these two very just peach spots on the show that you want to fill in with the two best and brightest things. And this is what it was. It means that maybe it just was not a great week for pitching Weekend Update characters because there's just so many out there that are, I think, would be better than this. It's not that this was bad necessarily, but it was fine. And I don't want it to be fine. I wanted to laugh a lot harder than I did. And I get kind of what they're doing, but the whole every Ross dress for less, that's me. Okay. It's kind of funny. I don't know. Maybe what am I missing?
That's the thing is we probably are missing something. We admit that, but there's probably a cultural character or a cultural person here that people resonate with, and they find the humor in there. I just can't. I don't. There was nothing in there that, again, that I found the humor in. And maybe somebody that shops a lot or something maybe gets it. I just didn't. And that's the danger when you go so connected to a certain person or certain individual that the majority of the people don't understand.
Sure.
And listen, you can be a very specific person. Marcelo Hernandez has done that a couple times with his Latino heritage and baseball, these kind of things where you and I might not share in any of that background, but we still
good
get.
Lord, that was gut-busting laughter.
It's so you can still do something very specific and invite enough people to laugh into it.
I think that one of the funniest bits was when she gets out the neck brace and she just goes, anybody can just buy one of these. Like I for some reason I thought that was very, very funny. That it just didn't really go anywhere beyond that.
Love Ego. I think she's had a great season. Just wasn't for me this one. All right, moving on. Weekend update. Kurt and Deb from Wyoming on Rekindling the Spark, written by Rosebud Baker, Mikey Day, Alex English, Chloe Feynman, and Jake Norblin. Kurt and Deb from Wyoming, played by Mikey Day and Chloe Feynman, stop by Weekend Update to share how they keep the spark alive after years of marriage. Was this just a sketch to showcase Chloe Feynman's incredible impression ability?
Yes, and here's what I don't understand. These are 3 impressions. She's done a lot on the show.
Yeah.
If she had been working on 3 bangers that we hadn't heard before and then decided to do, oh my God, this could have been an all-timer. But
she's an incredible impressionist, right?
She brings out 3 of the most tired impressions she has. And even though they're great, I've heard her do Drew Barrymore like 6 times on the show.
Yeah.
What was this?
The fun part of it was to do Drew Barrymore doing orgasmic kind of. The
only thing that sold it was the level of intensity was there for sure, and how aggressive they both got with each other about it. There was some humor there for sure.
Mikey Day's character made me laugh a little bit because he was being silly and like
what did he do? Like do the Stewie voice, and he's like, "Hello, Brian," and then he just says it
really
again.
the only thing he can
Hello,
do.
Brian. Okay, so yes, there was some
him
fun
like pinching Colin Jost,
and Colin Jost again. Easy. He pushed him out. That fun interaction. You can tell they were having a good time with this for sure.
That saved this for me a little bit.
This is like when
they were being silly
when Garth and Kat were on. And Garth and Kat was a really fun version of a sketch like this, or an update bit like this. But the 2 performers were having a great time.
Aidy Bryant and Bowen Yang used to do one that was really fun because they had a fun time doing it.
And Aidy Bryant and Kate McKinnon. Same thing. As long as they're having a good time, I'm going to watch it.
Sometimes the bits weren't all that great, but they were having fun, so you were having fun doing it.
But this one just didn't get to that next level.
Yeah, I agree. Chloe Feynman's fantastic at impressions. Really good. But there was nothing there. I think she did Meryl Streep. I didn't get the Meryl Streep one though.
Yeah, I mean it's a fine impression. What's the one in the middle she did, the Netflix show? Anna.
Oh yeah.
So they did a whole
Anna Delvey,
but they did a whole sketch,
which was really funny.
Right?
A pre-tape of her doing that.
I don't get it because they've already done it.
Yeah,
like
I felt that was very like recycled there.
Yeah, so weird.
Moving on, Minky, written by Heidi Gardner, Martin Herlihy, John Higgins, and Ben Marshall, the Please Don't Destroy guys. A talk show host, Minky Carmichael, played by Martin Short, gives his audience relationship advice with Heidi Gardner, Punky Johnson, Sarah Sherman, Ego Nwodim, and Cecily Strong. Here's what I loved about this sketch. Martin Short's physical comedy. He's a master at physical comedy. Here's what I didn't love about the sketch. Everything else. Yeah. His dancing made me laugh a little bit. Like there was a silliness to it.
What was the Taron Killam Weekend Update character, Jebediah Atkinson? Next!
Yep. Yeah,
that's all I feel about this. Like, I don't care at all. This was just a swing and a miss.
I did read there were some people that really enjoyed this. They liked the Heidi Gardner aspect of her drink just constantly spilling.
Well, and as a Heidi Gardner, I would just
stand as a Heidi Gardner stand.
Sweetie, I know you're listening. I am so sorry to say this. It was not your best effort as far as the sketch, but you were amazing as always.
This felt like what Martin Short would have done back in the 80s a little bit. Like,
sure.
Like, I didn't connect it to anybody. And then the whole like jokes about Martin Short's penis. I just didn't get like. I mean, I wanted to laugh because again, that's humor that I usually laugh at, but I just didn't get it. All right, I think we're gonna have Brad talk in a second, and this will be probably his favorite sketch. Father of the Bride 8, written by Chloe Feynman, Heidi Gardner, Jimmy Fowley, Sierra O'Sullivan, or maybe Kara O'Sullivan, and Will Steven. In the 8th part of the Father of the Bride movie franchise, a father, Steve Martin, becomes distraught when his daughter, Heidi Gardner, gets engaged again. And it brings back Martin Short, who is actually in the films, Chloe Feynman as Diane Keaton, and Bowen Yang, and cameo appearances by Martin and Short's Only Murders in the Building co-stars Selena Gomez and Kieran Culkin. I didn't get the Selena Gomez thing. Like Kieran Culkin thing made me laugh a little bit.
Is to me. I think they were just looking for anything else they could have put Selena Gomez in after the monologue. They were like, "Oh well, we definitely want to write her into something," and they just landed on this. It's kind of how it felt.
The premise of
this was
somebody
bad.
Divorced and
this
remarried.
Was very bad,
and they're now divorced and remarried a bunch of times, and they're looking for dad to and Steve Martin's like, no, I'm not going to pay for that. Okay, I get the humor of that.
There's bones here. There's bones here.
Exactly.
But even for Martin and Short, they were off. They
just didn't seem all that great.
Maybe this felt like this was a replacement sketch that got tossed in at the last minute.
I did see on one of the other SNL Twitter threads that I follow that there were, I think, 4 cut for time sketches.
Wow.
And I don't know if there's pressure to put this in because, again, you invited Kieran Culkin to the studio.
Well, sure. Yeah.
You better use him in the sketch.
I don't know. It's just a very strange missed opportunity, really, because you've got all this, that's the reverse of the Keenan and Kel.
Yeah,
that was awesome for Brad. Obviously, it was a little older, but I get it, right? Even though I wasn't a fan of the show, I found humor in that sketch and I thought it was very well done. This was just, again, too many kind of missed marks and kind of just stuttering and weird, and the accent that Martin Short does that Higgins comes over, does the voiceover, doing an accent that we think is okay. We're going to say it's okay. That was probably the funniest line of the entire thing. Just weird.
It's just odd because, like I said, I think the premise has humor in it. It just didn't find the humor.
And I'm sorry, you cannot make Heidi Gardner look menopausal. You just can't. Okay, she's just a beautiful young woman.
Hey.
And you cannot make her look. She just doesn't.
Tone it down.
She just doesn't look it.
All right, tone it down. All right, and that's it. That was the episode. And I did ask on our Facebook page, if you're following us on our Facebook page or our Twitter, what were some of your favorite sketches and what was some of your favorite, or who is your MVP? So I want to read a couple of those. Bill Nelson says, this felt like SNL of a couple decades ago. Glorious. Bill really loved this episode. Becky Crane said, my favorite sketch was the pre-tapes Christmas Carol. It was so funny.
It's very good.
Joe Wicker said, it was great to not have a political code open. Never thought we'd get a Father of the Bride sketch, LOL, and the spoof of White Christmas singing about snow on the train. So if you follow us on Facebook or on Twitter, let us know what you think of each episode we ask each week, and we'd love to read what you think on the podcast. Let me get to Brad. We're gonna put this in this episode. We're gonna cut this in. We did ask Brad what he thought. I'm gonna put it in right now so you can actually hear from Sickly Boy Brad and what he thought of this episode.
All right, so I'm sick, so I'm just going to record this little tidbit for you guys to react to after you hear all the shit that I have to say. Or I guess you could do it right now since we're just doing this live. I don't know, whatever.
No, this goes at the end of the podcast.
True, but you can still react to it as you're talking. Anyway, this was a pretty great episode with Steve Martin and Martin Short. I don't think it quite hit the highs of Keke Palmer's episode, unfortunately. If I were to pick a best sketch of the evening, it would probably be A Christmas Carol or The Holiday Train. Both of those were cracking me up, and The Holiday Train came so early on in the episode. Another instance of the 10-to-1 sketch, being completely out of place, but cracked me up. And man, I was not expecting the disappointing throwback sketch to be Father of the Bride, because holy shit, was that sketch terrible.
Yeah, it was bad.
I love the Father of the Bride movies, and I even mostly enjoyed the Netflix thing they did when they were doing Zoom shows, when they did like a wedding with all the cast and everyone back together. This was not funny. It was a poor use of the characters. It was lazy. It was easily the worst sketch of the night for me. But overall, I really liked this episode. The only sketch I think they came close to being worse than the Father of the Bride sketch was the Minky one. That was a tough one to watch. But otherwise, everything else was really good. I especially loved Steve Martin and Martin Short's monologue. So overall, a pretty good episode. Not quite as good as Keke Palmer. That's it for me. I'm probably going to go die now.
Who's your MVP?
I would probably say Cecily Strong. I think she had a really great night. She was in a lot of the better sketches, and she's been crushing it lately. She's fantastic.
All right, he's wrong on most things.
As
but
always,
again,
man.
Ben, what did you think? Let's start with what was your favorite sketch of the episode?
Sketch of the episode was Santa and the Elf. I mean, Martin Short at his finest. even when things go wrong with the dialogue and their recovery was perfect. I mean, Martin Short just shows you why he. Could you imagine Martin Short doing any other job? No. I mean, just any other job. Like, oh, he's just he's a waiter. Nope, doesn't work. He's an architect. Nope. He's got to do this.
Yep,
he's
in
perfect.
Him. It's in him.
Perfect.
He is it. And again, he just has that. So I'm a big Conan O'Brien fan, and I've watched Conan O'Brien's show. I listen to Conan O'Brien podcast, and if you ever want to go back and laugh, like, go to YouTube and look at Conan O'Brien, Martin Short. Conan O'Brien admits that Martin Short has his funny bone. He just, like everything Martin Short does, he laughs.
How can he not?
And if you watch whenever Martin Short was on the Conan, it was just a master class of comedy.
Did you watch Jiminy Glick?
I didn't.
So I'm gonna get you that for Christmas.
Okay.
Don't buy it. Don't watch it. I'm just a little foreshadowing here. I'm buying you the Jiminy Glick box set because while it didn't, make him a household name anymore,
there are people that love that though.
It particularly hit my funny bone. I always thought it's Between Two Ferns, but it's Martin Short.
There are some people that are just good at like riffing, but also Martin Short can make fun of a person in a way that very few people can.
It's a very Don Rickles.
It is very.
You are looking forward to it.
Yes, and make fun of things that I don't have that level to me. Right, that is just and people consider you and I somewhat funny. I don't have that level. It is just so funny.
It's so quick. It's just so quick. That sketch, it sums up exactly the kind of comedy that I love. And that was him and Steve Martin at really at the top of their game, even this many years in, just showing you their back and forth, just 10 out of 10. I just loved it.
And again, I had a debate in me about what I wanted to pick because I did like A Christmas Carol sketch a lot. And it was a pre-tape. But I actually went with what you did because it was a sketch and it was live. And there was something about the live comedy element of it that I really liked, and it felt very SNL for me. Not that pre-tapes aren't, because again, I love pre-tapes as well. Which ironically, as we talked earlier, one of the things that they did before Lorne Michaels came back was they wanted to move to almost all pre-tapes.
Wow.
They wanted to just be a pre-taped show. And so
Saturday night, not live.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't think they needed to be live. So I still like live sketch comedy, even though I do love the pre-tapes.
Well, it's the tightrope walk.
Yep.
It really is.
I also love really good improv comedians. I don't like a lot of improv, honestly, because I don't think it's very funny. I think they try to be funny. As you and Brad have done improv before, it's very hard.
I know that's what you're saying. We're not ready.
No. You can admit
one of us is sitting right here. Just to remind you, I'm still in the room.
Okay, you did very amateur improv. It is very hard, isn't it not?
Oh, it's incredibly hard.
Yep.
It is.
And to be as good at it as Steve Martin and Martin Short are,
even the people at Second City are genius level compared to Brad and me, our little chuckle jokes, but even they, don't make it to SNL.
Nope.
The idea that you are that good for that long, and you never lost it. That's just incredible.
So who would you pick then as your MVP? This was hard for me, honestly.
Yeah, so this is the first time that I can not really pick out anybody specific that really stood out. I don't really even know that I have one this time. I don't really. Sarah Sherman's dad. He's my MVP.
Brad would be so mad at you if he was here too.
Yeah, whatever. Brad, suck a butt.
That's right. What he's doing.
He's came through with that baton, and he really sold it. So I'll give it to him.
I had a hard time with this as well. I kind of did want to give it to the host because I am such a big fan, but we did it last week. I gave it to Keke Palmer. I don't want to do it again.
And she carried every sketch she was
so
in.
Good.
And these two did not do that. This time.
Even though they hit home runs in a couple sketches.
Would you say who did better? I think Martin Short.
Martin Short for me
did better.
Much better. Honestly, I don't think they showcased Steve Martin's talent as well, because he didn't come off the funny guy in most of the sketches. Honestly, other than the science room thing, he had some funny things in there. But
I'd say
the monologue was funny.
Maybe Mikey Day. He was in a lot of stuff, and he was pretty solid the entire episode. So I you know what, Brad? I'm sorry. I'll say Mikey Day.
Yeah, I think I was going to go either Mikey Day or Cecily Strong. I think did well as well this episode, but it was very evenly kind of.
Yeah,
it was also evenly written. There was a lot of a lot of participation in this episode.
Didn't see much of the first the new 4.
No, other than there were, I think 1 or 2 of them was in the pre-tape for Christmas Carol.
Man, that's it though.
Andrew Smukes, what was he in?
He went. Well, he's not new. But
I know, but I'm trying to think of some of the
Santa Claus sketch.
Yeah, but there wasn't a ton of him either.
No, he just sat there and was just that one. Mom says I can't do this next year. That was his only line, but the entire show really.
So overall, how would you rate this? Would you rate it as one of the better of the season? Would you?
This is definitely one of the better ones of the season. It ended with such a downside. I didn't love that I came away with the episode going but it's almost like I forgot the first 5/7 of the show was incredible. It was really funny. So I'd say this is probably right on the not nearly as good as Keke Palmer, but still upper tier for sure.
Hey, we've got a couple minutes left on the podcast. I want to talk a little bit about an article that was written by EW, so Entertainment Weekly.
Oh, real quick before you do that, read the statistic about Steve Martin. Was it like 56% of all cast members Steve Martin has interacted with?
Yeah, I forget what it is.
It's something literally like
ridiculous.
56 of all cast members. 56% of all cast members, which means there have been 160. So that means that he's interacted with like 80 to 84 people on the show lifetime. That's nuts.
It is a ton, and then also I want to shout out because again I do get information from them, and I really love this Twitter page. It's called the Saturday Night Network. It's at the SNL Network. Is a great Twitter page to follow as well.
Good resource for sure.
They gave us a lot of information that we've read, and I just really enjoy interacting with them. But anyway, let's go on to this article real quick for the last couple of minutes that we have. So it was essentially written by Dennis Perkins on EW.com. We can put it in the show notes. There have been over 160 main and featured cast members throughout SNL's illustrious 48 and counting seasons. So that's a lot, 160. I read some at the beginning of the show that were in season 10. And essentially what they do is they go through the top 24 or 25, maybe cast members.
I think it was 24.
Yeah, 24 cast members. And they go
because
through
there's 24 hours in a day.
And then they pick. And I thought it'd be fun to go through this and say, okay, do we agree? But also, who on the cast right now do we think is going to join this group here in another couple of years?
How do they phrase it? Best cast members ever? Like best?
It's who were truly the best of the best. And so the rules for this ranking...
If the Mount Rushmore were 24...
The rules for the ranking are relatively straightforward, considering only each performer's time on the show and not anything they did before or after. Okay, so that is important.
No, that's big
because we've had some cast members, Robert Downey Jr. again,
exactly,
that is not a top 25 cast.
He's not even on the top 100.
And so Martin Short has had a wonderful comedy year. I don't think I'd include him in the top 25. Nope. Probably Billy Crystal, the same thing.
Yep.
Harry Shearer. But Tina Fey, you would. Okay, so let's move on. All right, number 24, they've got Chris Parnell, who is on for 8 seasons. Number 23, Jason Sudeikis. Number 22, Aidy Bryant. Number 21, Fred Armisen. Is there anything Fred Armisen did that I remember the Californians.
I mean, ay, Dios mío.
Yeah, I love Fred Armisen, so I'm not arguing against it.
So far, what I can tell in this list, just right off the bat, longevity clearly matters.
Yep.
Because Chris Parnell was on for 8 seasons. Fred Armisen was on for 8 or 9, maybe.
Yeah, Parnell was on 8 seasons. Jason Sudeikis 9 seasons. Aidy Bryant 10 seasons. Fred Armisen 11 seasons.
So they've
got a lot of episodes to do some stuff in.
I can already tell that if that's what this list is, or maybe this is just the back end of this list. Hey, we're going to fill it out with the longevity people. So let's keep going.
Cecily Strong, number 20. So you've got a cast member that's on the cast now.
Sure.
Do you think she is a top 20 cast member of all time?
Keep going, because I know I want to, because I actually haven't read the list yet, and so now I'm like, well, who? Because I feel like I need more information, only because if certain people are on the list or not on the list, it's really going to color my vision here.
All right, number 19, Jan Hooks, who was on for 5 seasons. I don't honestly remember Jan Hooks that well. She was on 86 to 91, and that's about when I really started watching early 90s.
Sure.
So I don't remember her very well.
She was great.
Will Forte, 8 seasons. We love Will Forte here on the 10 to 1. Daryl Hammond, 14 seasons. Adam Sandler, 16. He was on for 5 seasons. Back then, though, there was a stretch in the 90s where 5 seasons was pretty much all you did.
That was the
6
the length
seasons
of
felt 1 season
your
too long.
career. Yeah.
So
because it was almost like the 5 seasons in a movie. Because that's what you did. You did 5 seasons on SNL, and then you got your movie.
So Adam Sandler's at 16. That seems high to me, or like low rather. I mean, like I feel like almost
should be a little higher on that list.
I'm anxious to see like what 15 cast members. I'm sure there are, and it's going to make sense. But Adam Sandler's for me.
So let me, because I don't really.
It's an all-time great.
See, so this is going to be tough because you're only supposed to be going off of SNL.
Yep.
Therefore, I don't think that Bill Murray is anywhere near this.
Yeah.
Because they're going to have Bill Murray in the top 5, which is silly because he's on for 1 year. And then, he's got an enormous movie career. And that's the thing that everybody knows him from.
We'll see if they have Bill Murray.
Right,
or have you already read it?
No, I haven't. I haven't read any.
Number 15. So above Adam Sandler, Andy Samberg.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, the Lonely Island.
I think it's arguable.
Lonely Island in and of itself.
Yeah. You almost want to include them all.
They
right?
have 100.
Andy Samberg is nothing without, the rest of them.
Yeah. But they're.
But again, yep. Yeah. Number 14, Maya Rudolph, 9 seasons.
Yep.
Number 13, Kristen Wiig, 7 seasons.
Agree.
Number 12, current castmate, Kenan Thompson, who's been on for 87 seasons. 20 seasons. Number 11, Chris Farley, 5 seasons. I would put Farley above Adam Sandler.
Yes.
Again, love them both. But number 10, Dana Carvey. Now, I said number 10, and I thought, Chris Farley's not in the top 10.
So, and honestly, Dana Carvey, I thought would be lower. On the higher on the list.
I don't know. Where would you put Dana?
Better.
Carvey? Where would okay in the top 5?
Roughly, I can't even say it because who am I fucking over? But no, I think Dana Carvey. There's an argument probably when you get down to the top 5 of like your Phil.
It's going to be really hard.
Your Phil Hartman's, your Will Ferrell's, your Eddie Murphy's. But Eddie Murphy again, he saved the show. He was the show for 3-4 years, right? So that if you just count SNL and what it is as an institution, he deserves to be on that list.
Yeah, it is. Again, that you make a good point of how many cast members came in. Saved the show when everyone said that SNL was done.
Exactly. Not one.
Which is
only one.
Which adds a whole nother level of stress to the show.
Absolutely.
All right.
By the way, do it at 19 years old.
Yep. So Dana Carvey was number 10. He was on for 7 seasons. Kate McKinnon, number 9, on for 11 seasons. Number 8, John Belushi. He was on for 4 seasons. Number 7, Dan Aykroyd, on for 4 seasons. Number 6. Who have we not put that you think is going to be in there?
Will Ferrell is probably really high up there.
Will Ferrell is number 6.
Yeah.
At he was on for 7 seasons.
Tina Fey.
Okay. So we've got 5 left. Let's see. I'm looking at them right now. All right. Who do you think is going to be in that top 5?
It's probably Chevy Chase, Tina Fey, Phil Hartman. And maybe Bill Murray and Gilda Radner.
All right. Number 5. Gilda Radner, who was on for 5 seasons. Number 4. I don't know if you said this one or not. Bill Hader.
I did not say Bill Hader.
For 8 seasons. Would you put Bill Hader that high?
So it really now depends on who else is going to be left off this list.
Number 3.
Will Ferrell.
We already said Will Ferrell was number 6.
Oh, he was? No. Go back. Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah. Will Ferrell's number 6. Who's number 5?
Number 5 is Gilda Radner.
Gotcha. Okay.
And number 6 is Bill Hader. Or number 4 is Bill Hader.
Yep.
Number 3, 4 seasons, Bill Murray.
He was on for 4 seasons. Okay, yeah. Sorry.
But honestly,
I know. With the parameters of this list, that's tough because he's a much bigger movie star than he was on SNL. I'm sorry.
And I haven't seen every Bill Murray episode of SNL. I've seen a lot of them, but not everyone. I don't know. Number 2, Phil Hartman.
And then Chevy Chase.
He was on for 8 seasons. Number 1, Eddie Murray.
Eddie Murphy.
Eddie
Chevy
Murphy
Chase not even on the list.
Not even on the
So,
list.
okay, so that would speak to, because Chevy Chase was only on for one season, was replaced by Bill Murray. That's where I got confused. But yeah, so Chevy Chase absolutely was a major movie star compared to, but when you think of Live from New York, it's Saturday night. Like that.
The writer also says that they did not accentuate or include purposely like people that made their name on SNL as being writers or Weekend Update anchors.
No, Eddie Murphy being number one is not a problem for me whatsoever. The man
Yep.
single-handedly brought the show back from nothing. He did it at such a young age, and he is still linked to that show overall. Phil Hartman is dead, and that's why I honestly think he's so high on that list. He was the glue for a long time.
You don't think you'd put him that high?
I don't think I would.
Number 2?
I don't think I would.
It's hard because I loved Phil Hartman.
So-
he was on when I first started watching, and he was such a enrapturing person for me. Like I just wanted to watch anything he was in.
I'm not disagreeing with the brilliance. I just think
he's
that
top 25 for sure, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. But number 2, that's a big.
That is.
You're gonna tell me that he means more to the show or is better on the show than honestly like Mike Myers is even on this list, right?
Yeah, that is crazy.
That's crazy. He's absolutely a top 25. I can find somebody to get rid of on that list that doesn't need to be there compared to Mike Myers. He made that show what it was, along with Dana Carvey back in the day.
Yeah, Mike Myers had some really good characters too.
Really
so
good
it is that is a little surprising.
It's a pretty big oversight, honestly.
And again, not to take away, I don't know who you cut out.
And that's tough, right? You start playing that game.
Because again, you almost want to see I'm
But you're going to say
25
I'm sorry,
30.
Chris Parnell instead of Mike Myers. That's weird.
Yeah, let me again, Fred Armisen. Love Fred Armisen.
Yeah, but Mike Myers?
So you got Chris Parnell at 24. You got Jason Sudeikis at 23. I like Jason Sudeikis a lot.
I don't like him more than Mike
Love
Myers.
Ted Lasso.
Yeah.
But what did Jason Sudeikis do other than the ooh-wee, where he's dancing?
He was the straight man on every episode.
That's what I'm saying.
He's the Mikey Day now, the Taron Killam.
Yeah. So what did he really do that you remember?
Not much. I mean, and that's such a slam.
That shouldn't, because we love Jason Sudeikis.
Yeah, of course we do.
But
I can still point out a bunch of stuff that a bunch of these people did. I can even point out a bunch of stuff that Chris Parnell did.
So would you then, going back, they had Cecily Strong at 20. Would you include Cecily Strong in the top 25?
I don't think so. I think Kate McKinnon deserves that spot all day long in the top 25. I think Keenan from the current cast does as well. But I think they're probably the only two of the late model.
Where would you
SNL.
put Pete Davidson?
Well, he didn't revitalize the show at 19 like Eddie Murphy did. But 2, 3, I don't know.
Okay, so would you place Aidy Bryant or Cecily Strong in the list?
Ooh. I think you got to give it to Cecily Strong over Aidy Bryant.
So both of those, though, probably you would find other people to put in there.
I would.
All right, so let's think about this current cast.
Sure.
We've got, obviously, Keenan's on this list already. Cecily's on this list already. Is there anybody there that you can think of that might probably make this list in another 10 years or something? Do you think somebody like
Sarah Sherman?
I
mean, she's such a unique voice that she's at the biggest shot because she's making the biggest waves right now. Bowen Yang could potentially.
It's hard for me not to include Bowen Yang because he's
so good.
So good. He kind of, again, in a way, is like a Phil Hartman in that he is enrapturing for me. When he is in sketches, I just focus on him because I know he will do something funny.
When you watch SNL right now and the people start to walk out into the sketch, right? Or it opens and you see Bowen Yang.
Yep.
Your head automatically goes, oh, this is probably going to be a good sketch.
Yep.
And that is a rare quality.
Yep.
So he had that. Phil Hartman obviously had that, or the ability to save a sketch like Keenan. Bowen has that as well.
Yep.
So that's what's going to make him an all-timer. I don't know if Sarah Sherman's a generational talent. I don't know.
You think she's going to be that big?
I mean, man, I hope so. I have just seen nothing but up here.
The only thing I think that would stop her is leaving early to where, because again, she might have some opportunities.
I am just so impressed with what she's done. if I ever said anything, I'm gonna have to listen back to these first couple episodes of our show this year and say like, yeah, I don't know, maybe the 10-1 stuff's a little too much, too early.
I mean,
fuck you, Ben.
If listeners want to be like, hey, you hypocrites, we are.
You're wrong. Now Ben is correct. You, old Ben, is wrong. Like, she is incredible. So I would really hope to see her on that list. But yeah, no, that's a pretty solid. The Mike Myers thing was very surprising because again, so many characters, so many good sketches.
Do you think there is a case for Tina Fey because she was also a performer, right? She did
Weekend Update.
She did Weekend Update, but she also did what's her face? The Alaska governor.
Sure,
Sarah Palin.
I can see. Well, that's probably just one of those that just didn't meet the parameters of his qualifications. More of a writer than a performer.
What about Kristen Wiig? Is she too low on there? Because for years she carried SNL.
Yeah, her and Dana Carvey are neck and neck for me as far as placement on that list. I couldn't tell you who should be higher. They're both all-timers for sure. Probably both in my top 10. I mean, my God.
What about Tracy Morgan?
No, I don't see him in the top 25.
John Lovitz?
No.
Jimmy Fallon?
No.
Chris Rock?
No.
Molly Shannon?
People forget that back in the day, Chris Rock was a very amateur, subpar performer on SNL. He didn't do.
He was also only on for 3 seasons.
He didn't do much when he was on. He took off as a stand-up, obviously, and became one of the voices of a generation.
Make an argument for me that Fred Armisen is better than Molly Shannon.
See, I can't. See, that's the thing. I don't think that I can. I think Molly Shannon should be on the list compared to like a Chris Parnell or Fred Armisen or even an A.D. Bryant. Like Molly Shannon was, again, and it's not just because they had Mary Catherine Gallagher. She had bits that she did, characters that she did, but she was in so many sketches that just completely made me laugh out loud and just reliable.
Sherry O'Terry?
No.
What about, do you think young people that are pretty fresh off the show now? I'm thinking of people like Leslie Jones, Beck Bennett, Kyle Mooney. Do you think they're going to increase,
No. I mean, Beck Bennett and Kyle Mooney kind of came as a package deal. In a lot of people's minds, mine included. I just don't think that they're ever, Taron Killam was very, very good. I don't know. He might be in the top 50.
What about this? Could you make an argument for Vanessa Bayer in the top 25?
I couldn't, but I would love to. I mean, I loved her.
Yeah, because I honestly, you'd think of I can't make an argument over Fred Armisen over Vanessa Bayer.
No, I can. Fred Armisen should be on that list compared to Vanessa Bayer.
I don't know if I can. I see them both very similarly.
So Fred Armisen, being on for so long, obviously, but he did so many Weekend Update characters. He was in so many.
I would put Vanessa Bayer over Jason Sudeikis.
I would too. Yeah, that's solid.
Was Daryl Hammond on there?
Yeah, he was. And see, that's again, there's a guy, right, that longevity absolutely seals the deal. Like he just did it for so long. I don't ever look at him like the glue that's he did pretty good impressions. I don't know. I'm not a huge Daryl Hammond guy. I really don't put him super high on my personal list.
But because of his workload.
Yeah. His at-bats.
What about Norm Macdonald?
No, he's just a Weekend Update guy.
He also did a couple sketches.
Sure.
He was Burt Reynolds.
Fine. Norm Macdonald didn't give a shit about the show whatsoever. He was just a guy that was on it.
A lot of people place John Lovitz a lot higher.
People are very nostalgic for John Lovitz. He was fine.
We'd love to hear from you. Again, we'll put this list in our show notes and things like that. I'd love to hear from you what you guys think. Is there somebody there that you would include in your list that is in the top 24 that isn't? Again, is there somebody on the cast now as well that you think should be on this list in the next couple of years?
I would love to expand that list to a top 50 and just see who would struggle to. Like Rachel Dratch to me is hilarious, right? She is so funny. I don't know that she would be in the top 50 though. And she's hilarious. That's a tough one.
It's hard for me to not put Will Ferrell in the top 5.
It is.
He is for me on a Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
But I also know there's recency bias. I have a hard time for me not including the people that made me laugh the most.
Sure.
I went back and laughed at Dan Aykroyd. I went back and laughed at John Belushi. But after I'd already laughed at these other characters, because they were the ones that formed me. They're the ones that introduced me to SNL. And so, again,
who are we missing from like the Will Ferrell into like the Will Forte era, like the 2008 to 2015, like Sudeikis and Hader were in there, but who are there? I feel like we're missing a couple like really, really big people.
Yeah, I don't know, but again, you're right.
I feel like there's some holes there that I'm just not seeing. I don't know. That's so strange to me.
I mean, you've got a couple people like that I think could have been bigger. We've talked about this before. I think Chris Redd was right on
he should not have
right on the cusp of being a big cast member.
Shouldn't have slept with Keenan's wife or something. He'd probably still be on the show.
But there was a lot of people though there, like again, that we loved. That didn't necessarily, the Beck Bennett's of this world that we laughed at, but I don't know if they've got Beck Bennett has an 8-year career of solid comedy,
right.
A solid writer as well, but probably doesn't.
What about Bobby Moynihan?
I love Bobby Moynihan.
I love him.
I don't know if.
I don't think he's in the top 25 though.
Yeah, I don't know if he's in the top 25.
Taron Killam though, that you could make a case for him maybe over Chris Parnell.
Did you like Taron Killam?
I did. I really did. I thought he was extreme. He was like Beck Bennett and Mikey Day combined. Like just had the straight man qualities, but also enough of like the Weekend Update stuff. The Jebediah.
I'll name some other again for our listeners to kind of remind you of some of these other ones. Chris Kattan.
So Kattan was fine. I put him on the same level as Sherry O'Terry though.
Now Brad's favorite. I know Brad would put this in his Mount Rushmore is Jim Brewer.
Goat boy.
Janine Garofalo was only on for one season. But these are there's a lot of people that were only on for a season or two that you forget. It's hard to also talk about SNL without some of the writers, some of the people that, SNL in the 90s was hard for me to not include greatest of all time, Robert Smigel, but he was only a writer.
Exactly.
Right?
He did the voice of Ace and Gary or something like that.
Did we talk about David Spade?
No, that was Steve Carell and Steve Colbert. David. Oh yeah, see David Spade. There's another one, right? Where does he fit on the pantheon?
Kevin Nealon.
Weekend Update is pretty much. All I remember.
I mean, he did some sketch stuff, but like
here and there,
but he was more known for
background player.
I mean, looking through here, and there's not a ton that I can think of that we haven't talked about. I mean, obviously, like there are people there that are famous: Robert Downey Jr., Joan Cusack, Anthony Michael Hall. Randy Quaid for one season, right? They were there for one season, but they're not, And
then you're gonna have your people that were there for more than one season, but never went into it. Ellen Cleghorn, your Anna Gasteyer,
Jay Farrell,
Nasim
Pedrad.
Yeah.
I have a big crush on Nasim Pedrad, by the way.
She's hilarious.
She's so funny.
Jenny Slate.
Yeah, Jenny Slate, but Jenny Slate was only there for a season.
Casey Wilson.
Oh yeah, I forgot Casey Wilson.
Jeff Richardson was on Mad TV and SNL.
Your favorite, Brooks Wheelan.
The butter and the pants.
You know what? Shasir Zamata.
Yeah,
Zamata.
Okay, that's
all right. So again,
dumb.
We want to hear from you guys. This is a list we'll put in the show notes.
So, long story short, Mike Myers definitely is in the top 25.
Should be in there.
I don't know who to get rid of necessarily, but you could probably chop off any of the last 5 and put
definitely
him in.
Better than Fred Armisen. I love Fred Armisen.
So what is going on with you? No, this is like the 19th time you brought him up specifically. I don't know what Fred Armisen did. He was a terror. He was great.
He killed my mother.
He's a great guy.
No, I have come off Fred. I'm so sorry because I love Fred Armisen so much. I really do, and I've been very harsh on you tonight, and I'm so sorry.
I would say take off A.D. Bryant, put on Mike Myers.
What do you have against A.D. Bryant?
I just think
do you not like?
I think that Cecily Strong and Kate McKinnon represent that era a lot better than A.D. as far as she came into her own. Like in the last season, she was there.
No, she was there before.
Before that, though, you check the tape. Before that, not as prolific as you would think.
All right, where's Heidi Gardner going to fit in?
Number 1 in my heart.
All right. Hey, follow us on Facebook. Follow us on we're the 10 to 1 podcast. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter. And listen to our other podcasts as well. Go Flicks Yourself. We try to put a new episode of that up every week, and then a new episode of the 10 to 1 podcast whenever there's a new episode of SNL.
Which will be next week.
We've got one more.
Austin Butler and Lizzo.
And Lizzo will be here next week. So we got one more episode this year, our final episode this year. We'll probably talk about our favorite episodes of the season so far, do a little bit of a recap of the first 9 episodes. But we love hearing from you. Again, thanks so much for commenting on our stuff. Thanks for helping this podcast grow. Please share it and help other people hear it as well. If you know anybody that loves SNL, we'd love to grow the community. All right. Be good to yourself. Be good to others. Keep listening to the 10 to 1.